Hi, and welcome to Springvale Seventh-day Adventist Church. We're glad you have joined us today, and we hope you enjoy the following message.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Sabbath. Thank you, Stephanie, for your work this morning and setting me up. And you don't have to be here very long to realise you're in the right place. You're in the right place, worshipping in the house of God, and I feel very comfortable coming to Springvale, even though it might only be once a year. It's sort of a nice glove that I can fit into. And I'd like to compliment the creative people in this church, and I know there are quite a few. That kids' church idea, the children's church, is a great one. And I don't know who came up with that, but I know it happens in our church and in other churches too. It is well worth putting time and effort into, because that's the next generation of believers coming through. And whatever capacity you have in this church, whatever department you work in, I really understand and appreciate the hard work that people put in to making a church like this work. You put in the time and effort so that church is an enjoyable experience for everybody else. So thank you. In the Bible, there are over 300 references to dreams and visions. Now, psychologists tell us that everybody dreams, and I think that's true. We don't always remember when we wake up what we were dreaming about, like some of these kids this morning. And it is true, most people, when they do dream in colour. It's very vivid when you go through it. However, we have to admit that not all dreams come from God. Some might come from overindulgence in pizza, or maybe chocolate ice cream before going to bed. That's not a good idea, and sometimes you get results you weren't counting on. However, I definitely believe that some dreams do come from God. I've experienced it. And it's interesting, not just in the Bible do you have these references to dreams and visions, it's much wider than that. In general history of the ancient times, like the book of Josephus, Antiquities of the Jews, there is heaps and heaps of references to dreams. Just slow down a bit up there, please. For instance, where will we start? The story of Jaddua, who was the high priest in Jerusalem, described in the book of Josephus here. He was in agony and terror. Why? He just heard that Alexander the Great was on the way with his marauding army, and they took no prisoners. They were scary people. He was out to conquer the world and do it as fast as possible and take everything with him. But the priest was just terrified. What's going to happen to the city of Jerusalem, to the Jewish people? Are we going to be exterminated when this man comes? So being a good Hebrew priest, he offered sacrifices to God in the temple and prayed all night. And God gave him a dream. Let's have a look at that on the screen. God warned him in a dream, gave him some advice. And when he rose from his sleep, this is the high priest, he greatly rejoiced and declared to all the warning that he'd received from God. According to which dream he acted entirely and so waited for the coming of the king. What happened was, in this dream, the high priest was told by God, don't be terrified, stay cool. In fact, be super confident. When you see the cities coming see the armies coming near the city, open the gates, dress up in your best robes, take all the priests out, go and meet Alexander the Great out there in the desert before he even gets to the city. What faith, because the priest actually believed this and told all of the others and was rejoicing. Hey, God's given me this great dream, great advice. Don't be scared, just go out and face this man. And they did. And it says there he acted entirely. He followed God's instructions to the letter. What happened? Well, the army comes closer and closer. There's Alexander at the front. The priests open the gates and they walk out proudly. And Alexander does something totally out of character. In any other city in the world, he would have waved the flag to his army. They'd massacre the priests, run through the city, ransacking, killing, destroying, and walking away with everything they wanted. This time, Alexander turned to his troops and said, "Stay. Stop there, guys. I'll go and meet them." And on his horse, he rode up to the priests, and a conversation went on between the two parties. No massacre at all. And they didn't get it. Josephus gives a lot more detail. And his troops who were sort of scratching their head and saying, what's got into him? This is not Alexander the Great. He should be killing people. And he's just being pleasant and talking to these people. And the next screen, later on, they asked him how it came to pass that when all the others adored him, he was Alexander the Great, okay, he gave this enormous respect and adored the high priest of the Jews. How come? What's going on? And Alexander's words are interesting. "I didn't adore him, but that God who hath honoured him with his high priesthood." He recognised God. And why? "For I saw this very person in a dream, in this very habit, the robes, everything, when I was at Dios in Macedonia." Incredible. God gave Alexander the Great a dream, I don't know how, months, maybe years in advance. When he saw the high priest, he recognised him instantly. Wow, what a sign to both parties. So much so that the next slide says that Alexander the Great went into the temple under the instruction of the high priest, offered sacrifices to God, and he magnificently treated the high priest and the other priests as well. And of course, they opened the book of Daniel for him, and they showed him wherein Daniel declared one of the Greeks should destroy the empire of the Persians. He supposed that himself was the person intended. Wow, what a revelation. This is a history book, folks. This is Josephus, a Jewish historian, telling us this on top of what we already know in the Bible. And notice all of this incredible scenario was built on a dream to a pagan. Phew. And also the dream that the high priest got himself. But wait, there's more. Let's have a look at the next one. Because the book of Daniel is full of dreams. Yep. Daniel 2, for instance, we know backwards. Nebuchadnezzar is troubled by a dream. He seeks advice from the prophets, blah, blah, blah. Daniel comes and says, "I know a God who can answer your problems. He'll tell you the dream, I'll tell you the interpretation." And Nebuchadnezzar's amazed. And it's amazing. And we still have that with us today. But there's more. In the 3rd year that Cyrus was king of Persia, a revelation came to Daniel. This is the good bit. "I, Daniel, alone saw the vision. Those who were near me did not see it. But such great trepidation fell upon them that they crept away into hiding. I was left by myself gazing at this great vision." Now, I'm here today to encourage you to dream big. Dream big for God's church. Sure, the Bible is a primary source of everything we know and believe and understand. But I'm telling you, I am sure God speaks to people through dreams as well, if you are open to that suggestion. If you don't believe it'll happen, it won't. It's that simple. But notice this, Daniel alone saw this vision. People standing around him, his close friends and associates, had no idea what was happening in his mind. They were just scared by what was happening in front of them. And if you get a vision, an idea, be prepared to feel totally alone because nobody else can see what you can see. When the Bible talks about the patience of the saints, I think this is where it comes in. I've been very frustrated myself sometimes in my own church for many years. I could see it. Why can't they see it? We've got to do this. And God has his own timetable, and we've got to be ready when he's ready. Next slide. Cameron Townsend was just in his early 20s when he graduated from Bible college, and God gave him a vision. He read the scriptures and says, the good news has to go to every nation, kindred, tongue, and people on the planet before Jesus can come. And using his logic, he says, how can that happen unless the Bible exists in all of those languages? Very logical conclusion. So he said, I'm going to start a team of Bible translators. We're going to go around the world and find every unknown language there is, every isolated tribe, and give them the Bible in their own language. Wow, what a vision. At the time, he thought there were about 2,000 languages known in the world. Well, a few years later, his team celebrated the 500th translation of the Bible into a different language. And then they looked at their books and realised they still had 1,800 to go. But that didn't stop them. The team got bigger, and now it's a massive organisation. I've been to their headquarters, and it's incredible what they do. Now, as exploration has opened up various parts of the world, we now have even more languages that have come onto the scene, that if this vision is to be fulfilled, it's going to take a mighty task and a lot of people and a lot of computers. It's now very high tech, but they estimate, that's Wycliffe Bible Translators, the work should be done by about 2050. There's something to hang your hat on. But if God can speak to people through dreams anyway, he can bypass that necessity for language translation. At this stage, you might be thinking, well, what's the difference between a dream, a vision, a revelation, or just an idea? Good question. My answer is not much, especially if you don't do anything about it. If you don't do anything about it, a vision is just a vision, just a story, just a dream, doesn't mean anything, doesn't do anything. If you go through the New Testament, we've had a look at some Old Testament stuff. Here's a catalogue, a mini catalogue of New Testament dreams. Matthew 1, Joseph has this engaged person, Mary, who is pregnant, and he has a big issue. Well, do I go ahead with the marriage or not? What convinces him? A dream from God. Yep, it's okay. You need to understand this, Joseph. Go ahead. Matthew chapter 2, the wise men find the baby Messiah Jesus. And in a dream, they're told, don't go back to King Herod and report this. Go home a different way. God knows best. And they did. Further on in Matthew 2, Joseph has another dream. The baby Jesus is in big danger. Babies are being killed all around this area. You need to go somewhere safe. Take the baby and Mary to Egypt. And they did. They acted on that dream. Matthew 27, Pilate's wife has another dream. And she implores her husband, let this man Jesus go. I have this vision, this revelation. He's totally innocent. But of course it falls on deaf ears. Acts 10 was our children's story. Cornelius has a dream about finding Peter and finding out about Jesus. And Peter has a dream a counter dream about reacting to Gentiles and opening the gospel opportunity to people of different races around the world. A mind-blowing dream that was for him. And Acts 16, just as another example, Paul has a vision at night, because some of these visions or dreams can happen in the middle of the day when God chooses. You can drop off to sleep anytime. Some people have visions when they're wide awake. We know that. Okay, but he gets a message that the gospel must go to Macedonia. The next day, Paul starts the journey for Macedonia. No hesitation, no, I wonder if this is true. I wonder if that was really from God. No, that's what we do tomorrow. Amazing. In 2015, so that's an old photo. I look much younger there, don't I? 2015, my wife and I were running leadership training for missionaries in Turkey. I've been to Turkey 3 times now, and if I had to live anywhere except Australia, it would probably be Turkey. I love it. But the guy on the right is one of the participants in our course. He's German, Timon Mura. The other guy is Rex. He's from New Zealand, but you don't have to know that. Timon had been in Turkey working as a missionary now with his family for, at that stage, 6 years, I think. So he knew the language very well. And as I was talking to him and stressing my admiration for the Turkish people and culture, I said, look, I was reading something from the Bible Society back in Australia, and they said 1 out of every 3 conversions to Christianity in Turkey comes through a dream. 1 out of 3. Direct revelation, God waking people up in the morning saying, you need to be a Christian. Wow. This is a country that is, 97% Muslim. This is amazing. It is not easy to open a Bible in front of an audience in Turkey, but God can break through that and directly work through people's dreams. Now, Timon thought about that statistics, 1 out of 3. He thought about that for a minute. Then he said, from my experience, it's 1 out of 2. Half the conversions in Turkey come through dreams. I said, tell me more. He said, I'll give you an example. And the next picture, he and his wife and young child started missionary work in a little Turkish village. But it wasn't going well. Not at all. And this was very strange. If you ever go to Turkey or if you've been there, they're very hospitable people, especially in the country villages. They will put you up and feed you and do anything for you to make you happy. But these poor Christians were hitting brick walls. All they wanted to do was start conversations, make friends, and eventually maybe open the Bible with contacts. But it turns out just around the corner from where they were living, there was a very scary Muslim woman who was very influential in the village. And from day one, she made up her mind, these people are Christians. They're bad news. We'll have nothing to do with them. And this lady ran weekly Quran studies in her house, very influential. So when she tells the rest of the villagers, don't talk to these people, they're probably Christians, they don't. So for a few weeks, they didn't know what to do. Nothing was working. They just treated terribly. So they could do only what a Christian could do under the circumstances. They became prayer warriors. They put the baby in the pram. They walked around the streets of the village, and outside every house, they stopped for 10 seconds and prayed for the people in that house. They did this for a couple of weeks until they'd covered the whole village. Then one night, there was a knock at the door, and standing there was the scary Muslim lady with a huge casserole. Whoa. And she said, please take this food and enjoy it, please. I had a dream, and in the dream I saw your house, and coming out of the house were beams of light, and God told me, you are good people. Astounding. This is happening in your world today. God can speak directly to people through a dream. Of course, not all dreams are good, and Ellen White had quite a bit to say about that. On the other side, though, she also said many dreams are God-inspired and we should take notice. Just take these words on board. There are many dreams arising from the common things of life with which the Spirit of God has nothing to do. These are your pizza and chocolate ice cream kind of dreams, self-inflicted, that don't mean anything. There are also false dreams, as well as false visions, which are inspired by the spirit of Satan. And you'll get people, and we do at our congregation, I don't know about here, we have visitors who come in with all sorts of weird ideas, strange doctrines, and they're mini prophets themselves who want to teach people everything they know. There are false visions, no doubt about it. But dreams from the Lord are classed in the Word of God with visions and are truly the fruits of the spirit of prophecy as visions. Such dreams, taking into account the persons who have them and the circumstances under which they are given, contain their own proofs of their genuineness. If your dream is saying, I am going to be the next Alexander the Great, that's ego-driven, it's satanic. But if your dream is about building up the Church of God, clearly there's nothing wrong with that. Okay? Deuteronomy is a familiar one. It's a warning, okay? And I'm enthusiastic about being open to dreams and following God's will, but I'm also very conscious of things that are not right. Should a prophet or a peddler of dreams appear among you, offer you a sign or a portent, and call on you to go after other gods, whom you have not known, and to worship them, even if the sign or portent should come true, do not heed the words of that prophet or dreamer. Pretty clear, to the testimony and to the word. If they're leading you somewhere you shouldn't be going, you know this is not right. The Lord your God is testing you to discover whether you love him with all your heart and soul. It is the Lord your God you must follow, and him you must fear. You must keep his commandments and obey him, serve him, and hold fast to him. Dreams based on selfish ambitions are bound to fail. And we have to be careful in recognising true dreams from false. But any revelation must be judged by the law and the character of God, ultimately. Next slide. This is strange. How can you talk about this on Sabbath? Big business have vision statements of where their business needs to be. But Target, the poor directors of Target didn't just have a dream, they had a nightmare. For several years, they'd been losing $55 million a year. Whoa. How long can you keep existing losing $55 million a year? That was a big question. So they needed a saviour, a management saviour. They looked around and they headhunted a guy who had just retired from Kmart, who had a big success story. He was a visionary, okay? He could think big, he could dream big, but made changes where necessary. This guy is now employed by Target. His name is Guy Russo. So they asked him, okay, we think you can do the job. What happened at Kmart that would convince us you can help us? And when you go back through the records, Kmart had also been losing money in the early 2000s. For 20, 25 years, a very successful business. But after 2000, things gradually wound down. They were going nowhere. losing money. Guy Russo came in and looked at the whole business operation with a big view, a dream, a vision. What do we need to do here? And he looked around and realised that Kmart was selling 100,000 different products, which sounds good for a consumer like you. You know, you can walk into Kmart and you can get almost anything. Surely that's good business. Well, turned out it wasn't. And he realised some of those things just weren't moving, not quickly, not selling fast enough. So in 7 years, those 100,000 products were cut back to 40,000. Less than half. Transformed the whole look of these stores and what they were offering. No longer did they give you everything that you ever wanted. It was very select in what they were selling. Not only that, he did some market research and found out they used to have summer sales, autumn sales, winter sales, spring sales, Christmas sales, Mother's Day sales, Father's Day sales, and they would offer 15, 20% off everything. And people would flock in on those days and buy and buy. But for the rest of the year, you never saw them again. They exploited the specials, that's all I wanted, and then walked away. Had no loyalty whatsoever. So he's thrown all that out. No longer. No summer sales, no winter sales, no autumn, no spring. It's the same all year round. Take it or leave it. And it's working. But massive changes in the way they operated and the way they thought about their business. And my implication here is that we need to consider all the time what we are doing here and how we do it. We certainly do that at our church. You see, dreams are only dreams unless you act on them. That often means we have to ask or change what we do and how we do it. Acts chapter 2 is that familiar verse. In the last days, isn't that now? Yep, absolutely. God says, I will pour out my spirit on all mankind. Your sons and daughters shall prophesy. Your young men shall see visions. Your old men, that's me, shall dream dreams, and I surely do. And I hope you do too. In England, the year was 1879. A teenager made a decision to follow Christ. Nothing unusual about that. But she joined the Salvation Army. Her name was Eliza Shirley, 15 years old. The next year, her parents said, we're going to America. There's not much employment in England anymore. We're going to America. You're coming with us, Eliza. She said, okay, that's cool. But she went to William Booth, the founder of the Salvos, and said, look, our family's going to America next month, forever. I'd like to start up the Salvation Army in America. What? 15-year-old girl, come on. Okay, well, I can't stop you, can I? In fact, do so with my blessing. Good luck, young lady. All I can give you is a flag for the Salvation Army. And off she went. Within 3 years, the Salvation Army had spread to 12 different states in America from the influence of one 15-year-old girl. Incredible. When you have a vision from God and you don't know it can't be done, you just go and do it. This denomination, the Seventh-day Adventist Church, was founded on the visions of a 17-year-old girl. It's amazing. This is the power of a dream. In our congregation, back in 2005, it was at Greensborough. You may know that. We called a meeting of everybody on a Sabbath afternoon, all adults anyway, who wanted to come, to a dreamers meeting. We said, we're not going to criticise. We're not going to laugh at anybody's suggestions. We want everybody to just openly tell us what's on your heart and mind, what God is telling you, the future of this church. It was incredible. A great afternoon. In fact, we wrote down everything that was said. We came up with a list of 34 dreams in one afternoon. And some people had had these dreams in their hearts for years. And now it came out. And here we are 10 years later. 24 of those dreams have already come true. Pretty good record, 24 out of 34. And one of the biggest ones was, and I was one of the people who had that dream, we've got to sell our church. We're moving. I don't know where. I don't know where we're going, but God says, time's up. Greensboro is history. We're not going to grow if we stay here. 5 years later, we're in a new building, better location, a growing congregation, financially secure, totally paid for. In fact, a double miracle how it all happened, but that doesn't matter. Praise the Lord. And it all came from people opening up about their dreams that God had given them. This was so successful, somebody said, oh, what about the kids? I said, what do you mean? Well, Acts 2 said young people will have dreams and visions. Oh. Okay, so a couple of weeks later, we invited all the kids from 6 years to 16-year-old. 22 of them turned up on a Sabbath afternoon. And once again, we said, whatever you say, nobody will laugh. Nobody say that's ridiculous, that's impossible. Just tell us what God is telling you. What did 22 kids come up with? They came up with 17 dreams for our church. 11 of those dreams have already happened. We don't cross things off the list. We leave them there. There's some people's dreams that God gave them. They may happen soon. They may happen 10 years. They may never happen. We don't care. The dream is important. And we don't kill anybody else's dream simply because we can't see it. Do you have a dream? That's the big question for today. If you're willing to share your dream with the pastor or the head elder, are you game to put your hand up now? Who has a dream? Thank you. Right. Okay, we've got half a dozen dreamers. And if you encourage dreaming, you'll get more, I can tell you. And I suggest those people write down what they're dreaming about and share it with other people and pray about it and do something about it. Act on it. Otherwise, it is just an airy-fairy dream. It's time to trust God and put our dreams into action, into reality. And the big three things I'll leave you with are this. What are you going to start doing? What are you going to stop doing? And what are you going to do differently? May God bless your dreams.
Thank you for joining us. For more messages, information on upcoming events and church services, please visit our website at www.springvale-adventist.org.au.